Hey guys, this is Chris from Pooty Paintball, and I always get asked all the time what is the difference between all the stage power cores that we offer. So today we're going to be just going over the differences between all these. So we have 7 power cores. We have the stock power core, stage 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So that's 7 power cores. So a lot of questions, a lot of people get confused on it, so let's kind of go over that. Essentially there's 3 or 4 different things. We'll go over it. Is the springs we use, okay, the bolts and their tips, and the amount of air that's stored inside the parts, okay. Now those are pretty much the 3 things: the springs, the bolts, tips, and the air storage, and how light the parts are, like how light the bolts are and this and that, but that doesn't, these are the main topics. So let's kind of go over everything. Now let's go over the bolt tips. Now this is the stock bolt, okay? It has a cupped face. Now we're going to just kind of use this as an example. It's a stock 2.0 power core with no spring, so you can see how this works, okay? Now the bolts draw back all the way. Now if you drop a ball in there, you can actually see how far the ball rolls back, okay? So if the ball's perfectly straight, the bolt's going to smack that ball, okay? Now that's what the feather touch screw is for, is to make the impact on the ball less of an impact, okay? Well, our bolt, the flat face bolt, kind of helps with that, and it makes it so you don't have to use a feather touch screw, and you can actually run your reg pressure lower, your dwell lower, less FSDO. We always run our stuff with the feather touch screw out with the flat face bolt because it doesn't need it anymore. So you drop a ball in, you can see that the bolt is right against the ball, okay? So there's no bolt impact. Now it doesn't matter that the bolt is flat faced, because you would think, oh well, you need a cupped ball because the ball is round. Well, that's actually not the case. Look at the Bob Long pillow bolts. Look at a lot of the bolts. They're making them flat faced now because there is no impact on the ball. It simply pushes the ball like a soccer ball. Like you would shovel a soccer ball with your foot, or kick a soccer ball. That's the difference. So our bolt is right on that ball. Now sure, it's at an impact point, but there is no impact. It's a push. So there's a difference between an impact and a push. It's a big deal. So that's to kind of go over the bolt face. A lot of people aren't quite sure, and they're kind of ignorant to, you know, how things are and how things work. Well, you gotta not think that way. So this is the best for fragile paint. The ball stack is completely straight in the breech. We don't have any ball movement. Eye readings are super fast. The ball stack is straight all the time. There's no kick, there's no impact on the ball. Works really good. So that is the bolt face. So the other thing is the amount of air stored in the parts, okay? Now the more air that's stored in your parts, the lower your operating pressure is going to be. That means the bolt's going to cycle softer, you're going to have less kick, and it's going to be quieter. You're not going to have all that high pressure like the old Egos. You know, you have a lot of high pressure in there. It's open and close real quick. That's where you get that snap and the crack and the sound. Well, the lower your operating pressure, the better your gun is. Now your efficiency isn't going to be, you know, super good like an Ego, because you're not, you know, you're not running high pressure. But if you want a Luxe like it should be shooting smooth and quiet. You'll get good efficiency, but you're not going to get super good efficiency if you're running high pressure. You know, if you want your Luxe to shoot like an older Poppet, you know, the LV1s are great improvement, but the older Egos, yeah man, those things can sound like cannons sometimes. So if you want your Luxe to shoot like a cannon, run high pressure. We do have options for that. We have rods you can fit in the bolt guides if you're a back player, but our concern is just to make the Luxe an even better shooting gun. So, alright, so how we address that is you have the stock 2.0 power core, okay? The spring is in the tip of the bolt, okay? And that's how that one works. Now what we do is on the stage 1 power core, it's a 2.0 power core, and we remove one of the bars, so that lowers the pressure a little bit. That's what we do in the can. So it's a 2-window can. The bolt, we bore out the back of the bolt to make it lighter and to accept the Rhino spring in the back. You can also run the Pooty spring, but the Rhino spring is pretty strong, good for lowering settings. So that's what that's for. It's really reliable. The spring lasts forever. I've never actually had to replace a spring, and we've been doing this for 4 or 5 years now. Yeah, so that's really reliable when it comes to spring and lower settings with that spring also. So we actually polish the bolt also. The bolt's anodizing. So that's what the stage 1 Powercore is going to do. It's going to lower your settings a little bit. Stage 2 Powercore, okay, has the same 2-window can, but here we have a super light New Designs. It's not the face is not nearly as cupped as the stock face. So we like that, less ball rollback. The bolt's very, very light. The porting's angled. It's Teflon coated, and you get the 2-window can, and the bolt guide's been modified for the Rhino spring. So stock 2.0 bolt guide, stock 2.0 bolt guide. So the only change from this to this is the bolt. Stage 3 Powercore, so we start to get a little bit different here. We're using the New Designs bolt that has that cupped face that's shallow, the 2-window can as before, but the bolt guide, okay? Now the bolt guide is the change on this. This is where we start to really drop some pressures here. Look how big the back of that bolt guide's bored out. So there's a lot more air stored in that bolt guide. So that's where you're going to get some feet per second gains, and that means you got to drop down your reg pressure. So that's good. You're lowering your pressure. So that's the stage 3 Powercore. So change from this to this is just the bolt guide. You can also buy any of these parts separately. Now this is where we get into the flat face bolt. Okay. Now the version 2 flat face bolt we just came out with adds a bolt tip O-ring, just like the stock 2.0 bolt. Now it'll help a little bit with breech wear, keep the bolt centered in the breech in case it shifts at all from mostly loose O-rings in the can. That's where we find the bolt shift mostly comes from. It'll seal a little bit better on the breech O-ring in the Luxe, this little O-ring in here, so less blowback. This is more of a customer demand. We kind of like that. In our flat face bolt and all of our other bolts, we don't put QEV holes in the back. We learned from testing the Vanquish that the QEV holes actually make the gun louder. So when it comes to Luxes and all the spool valve guns, we're really trying to go for the softest, quietest shot with less kick. So we don't add QEV holes. We did on our shocker bolts. That was a mistake. So we removed those. So we like it like that. Efficiency, you probably, it's not going to be as good. You might get a pod or maybe less more if you had the QEV hole, but the sacrifice for the kick, we just found it wasn't worth it, so we just don't add the QEV holes anymore. So the stage, this is the 4, has the 2.0 can, stock 2.0 can with a 2-window, and the flat face bolt, and the stock 2.0 bolt guide that has a spring. So your pressure's not going to be the lowest with that, but you do get the flat face bolt. Now don't think about cost with it, guys, because some of these parts I got pretty cheap, so I'm able to offer them pretty cheap. So cost isn't always what determines what's better. Now these are probably my 2 favorite Powercores here. If you're upgrading, if you get a 2.0, you want to probably go with something like this. If you got an older Luxe, any of these are fine. It'll still be an upgrade compared to the 1.0, 1.5 cores. These are the 2 cores I'd recommend. If you have a 2.0, you're going to find the biggest difference. Okay, so you have the flat face bolt, angled porting, super light. We can polish the anodizing for you. Bolt tip O-ring on the version 2, and 2-window can, and the low pressure bolt guide with the Rhino spring. So that's that. That's the stage 5 Powercore. One of our best sellers, and this is our best seller. This is what used to be called the Pooty Powercore before I came up with all the different options for people. Now this is essentially a Pooty 2-piece can. It's the only can for a Luxe that you can take apart. Now I will show you more on that. And this comes with the flat face bolt, low pressure bolt guide, Rhino spring, and the 2-piece can. Now if you have an older can, a version 1, you're not going to see these 2 markings here in the back. If you have a version 2, you're going to have these 2 markings. If you have a 3rd marking up here, up close, that means it's been modified. That's the newest can that we have. We found a master fix for all these cans. Most people were having puffing issues. Well, this fixes all of that. There's no such thing as O-ring fitment with these anymore. I mean, as long as you got black O-rings in this, you're good to go. You can even use the stock O-rings in this. If you have a doubt, just run black O-rings and you'll be fine. That's what we install, the cheap ones. They still last forever, but if you want to run the urethanes or the green HB&Rs, you can. So the 2-piece can is, okay, we're back. We ran a memory on that. So the 2-piece can here is one of the best upgrades also, because you can check your bolt sail O-ring in the back of the can without removing these O-rings like you have to do in this on the stock can. So that's very nice. You can diagnose that rear O-ring. And getting to these O-rings is basic now. It's very easy to O-ring fit. Simply screws together. Put your bolt in. Put your bolt guide in. So this is going to run the lowest pressure. Now I get a lot of people that say, well, this is a 2-window can, this is a 3-window can. Well, the windows are actually much thinner on this. This actually does hold more air. It's bored out all the way to the front and even deeper into the back, so it does hold more air than the 2-window 2.0 can. So this will run lower pressure. We're running, I have a video on YouTube right now that shows how low these run on pressure. 150, 160 is very common. So great Powercore right there. No O-ring fitment anymore. So that's a stage 6. So there you go. We sell all 7 Powercores. We even sell the back caps. If you want to order a back cap, so you can do what I did, you can swap Powercores just by, doing that. You don't have to screw anything together. We like to keep the back caps in stock so you can just plug them in when we want to diagnose things. We don't have to switch out anything. So there you go. Chris at pootypaintball.com. If you got any questions, you can email me, or pootypaintball.com is the website. Thanks, bye.